Welcome to the Power in Motion podcast, the show for women who want to develop a kinder relationship with their body so you can feel healthy, happy, and confident without restricting food, doing torturous exercise, or constantly worrying about the number on the scale. I'm your host, Kim Hagel, size-inclusive fitness specialist and certified non-diet health and life coach specializing in body image. This podcast is here to provide weight-neutral, health at every size aligned information and coaching on sustainable habits and mindset shifts so you can feel your very best in the body you have right now. Let's lace up our runners and go for a walk while we chat. Hey friends, welcome back. I talk a lot about motivation here because it's definitely the most common struggle I hear from women who enter my world. They'll often describe feeling stuck, like they just can't seem to get themselves moving. And when I probe into this, they'll usually say that it all just seems really overwhelming, like the belief that they need to find an hour a day to get to the gym, get to the aerobics class, meet with the trainer, just do all of the things. And I think the reason it feels so overwhelming is because they've tried that hardcore approach before and they remember how exhausting it is. And the thought of doing that all again is demotivating, to say the least. When it comes down to it, I think the struggle is rooted in all or nothing thinking. All or nothing thinking is a pretty common thought pattern with lots of us, but it really dominates in the fitness industry. Like, we have really bought the lie that exercise needs to look a certain way and that we have to be extreme because that's the only way to be healthy, aka thin. And if we aren't healthy, or at least trying our very best, then we're dying. There's just been so many rules that have been created about exercise, and we believe them. But here's the thing about the rules and about this all or nothing thinking is that the all is completely ridiculous and unachievable for most of us. Like, we have set the bar so high. And then when we can't achieve it or sustain it, we're left with nothing as the only other option because we think that anything short of perfection is failure. We've been brainwashed to believe that is the only way to achieve our health goals. So then there's no room for progress, for growth, or for good enough because all we see is good or bad. And even our best effort is often not good enough. And there's no wonder you don't feel motivated when you really think about it. Feeling like you'll never be good enough isn't a very fun place to be in. So I have a guest on the podcast today who's lived with this all or nothing thinking for decades. She came to me a few months back feeling stuck with movement and really paralyzed with fear because she thought that she had to try to achieve that level of perfection with exercise, and it caused incredible anxiety for her. We've been working together for just a couple months now, and the transformation in her mindset and her relationship to movement has been incredible. I've been so inspired as I've watched her grow and shift and work towards creating health on her terms. Her story is so powerful, and I thought that you would all be inspired by it too. So I'm going to quit talking and turn it over to Zara. I can't wait for you to meet her. Friends, welcome to the podcast, and I'm really excited to welcome a special guest to the show today. I have Zara with me. She is a participant in my Right Body for Me coaching program, and I've really noticed a lot of changes in Zara's thought process since we started working together, and I thought she had some great insights that would be really beneficial for all of you folks to hear too. So Zara, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you.
Why don't you get us started by just telling us a little bit about yourself and how you became interested in unlearning what you were doing before?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think this is an all too common story for women. Is around the age of 12, I started to experience body shaming.
Mm.
And I think that really kicked off like a lifelong trajectory of dieting and trying to change my body. And then once I have two sons now, and becoming pregnant and having kids, all of a sudden now you're sucked into this. I've got to get my body back. I've got to look a certain way. I really was sucked into all that for a long time. And then I just hit a point where I experienced some loss. I lost my grandparents. My dad was really sick, like all in the span of a few months. And I think those things like that, they spark something in you. And you're like, wait a minute, what am I doing? What's this all about? And I started to evaluate some of the things like the pressure that you put on yourself and your body and the way you're looking at yourself. And life is short. What am I doing spending all this time? So I really started to seek out different input. I'd been doing diet programs and doing fitness expert, following people like that and getting motivation from that. Just was like, let me try something different. And I started finding people that were talking about body acceptance. And it's interesting. I feel like this happens on the internet where you find one person and then they share something, and then all of a sudden you're like on this little snowball
Yeah.
into. So I found this one person, and then that led to a person that was teaching about intuitive eating. And so then I got the book, which was great. And then I decided I needed more help. So I got with a dietitian. I did the one on one learning about intuitive eating. But it was interesting because that brought up, like, you realize how bad it was when you start to unlearn.
Deeply ingrained.
And the other struggles. So as I started to heal my relationship with food, you see the light then gets shined. And yeah, I just started to try to find more information about those aspects of it.
So I think what you shared is something that a lot of women can relate to. I know even myself, when I really think a lot of my struggles with dieting and body image really accelerated after becoming a mom. Like, it was there all along. Like you, I probably started right around the same time, age 12. I think that like puberty is the time when a lot of us girls start questioning whether our body is okay. But there's something about becoming a mom and the changes that our physical body goes through, as well as the whole change in our identity, that really makes us question a lot of things. And then we assume it's all our body's fault for all these new feelings that we're having.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that really brought in me. I've always been like a little bit of an anxious person, but like a new level when I became a first time mom, like a new level of anxiety got layered on top of all that, those things. And I think you're like, I need to stay alive and take care of this person. And it's so much. And then I'm the kind of person that translates that directly to this is all my responsibility. So I must eat good. I must exercise. You know, like it becomes so heavy with
Yeah.
process.
What did you internalize about health then and your responsibilities about being healthy for your kids? What did that mean to you? How did that look in the past, like up until the last few months?
It totally meant I totally thought health was a size. If I wasn't thin, I wasn't healthy. Obviously, right after having a maybe not obviously, but for me, right after having a baby, I was not thin. And it meant eating the right way, quote unquote, the right way. And at any given time, I realized when you look back, you're like, wow, that changed a lot depending on what was popular at the time.
So true.
I think at that time it was like a low carb kind of
Mhm.
meal, eating the right way and doing whatever I could to control my body's size.
Yeah. And how is it working for you?
Oh, it wasn't working good. No, I had a lot of anxiety. I was having panic when I was doing movement because
Mm.
I had this like story just rolling in my head of how important it was. And so I would actually, instead of having that release and relief that some people experience while exercising or moving their body, I was having anxiety.
Yeah. You think because you had this idealized picture or this perfectionist view of what exercises needed to look like, the bar was just set
Yeah.
so high that you couldn't possibly meet it?
Yeah. And when you reflect, you're like there was times in my life that I was moving so much and like movement was such a big part of my life, but it wasn't exercise. And
Mm.
I didn't count it for anything. And I really discounted all that I was doing. And instead of maintaining what I was doing, I ended up stopping because it like wasn't good enough. But
Uh,
then I didn't replace it because I didn't want to. I don't tend to want to be on a treadmill or the things that you think you have to do or take an aerobics class. Or,
yeah.
I was doing the things I liked doing and I was moving a lot. but I always had that the diet police or the gym police, "Hey, this isn't exercise."
Right. Yeah. It's not good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why do you think that all of these things that you were trying to get to this place of health, why do you think they weren't working for you?
I think for me, like, again, with the doing it the right way, I'm this kind of person. I have a lot of people pleasing, perfectionist tendencies. I just feel like I could do it right when I was doing things that were like when I did feel like I was doing it right, it was this all or nothing. And so I
Mhm.
out because I went so far, so fast, and I would set these expectations. The bar was so high
Yeah.
that I just would burn myself out quickly. And then you lose the why would you want to go back to doing something
Yeah.
like that?
You
So
touched on such an important point that I see all the time. I can't even tell you how often this all or nothing mentality comes up in my world. And you're not the only one by any means that tends to set the bar so high. Like we really have a distorted perception of what ideal is in terms of fitness, right? Like we have to do an hour a day, 5 days a week, and it has to be hard and lift the weights. And if you're not sore after, it wasn't good enough. If you didn't sweat, if you didn't feel like throwing up, you didn't do enough. So then we try that for a bit, but like you say, then you burn out. It doesn't take long to realize that's freaking hard on the body.
yeah,
So you quit. But then, yeah, this all or nothing thinking takes over. You're like, that doesn't work for me. So I'll just do nothing.
yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like that's what it has to be. Like
Yeah.
end sentence. And I think I was in that range like that after having babies and up until like found a better way. It was really popular. Biggest Loser,
Mhm.
Extreme Weight Loss Makeover Show, whatever. Those were like huge. Like every so big on the TV, so big in like the culture.
Yeah.
And that's exactly like you said. It was like work out till you're sick, work out till you faint, and these like incredible things like not being content with like just changing my body a little bit or like finding that I feel good in my body. It was like it needs to be this like drastic, like I'm gonna go from this to like this other extreme, to this unrealistic like thought of and it doesn't deliver that because it's not realistic. And then you're like, what's the point?
Right. Yeah. So it doesn't even deliver on the hoped expectation that you have of weight loss. Or if it does, the cost to achieve it is so high that you're like, it's just not sustainable. It's not worth it. So I think that's how we get trapped in all or nothing is we try everything that they tell us we're supposed to do and it still doesn't work. So then we're left thinking, what is the point?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's
I
the
think
point?
that really, yeah.
So how then would you say, I think we touched on it, but how did that type of thinking keep you stuck and feeling unmotivated?
I think one of my something that we've talked about from working together previously is like these core beliefs. And I
Mm,
think it really hit on that worthiness thing. I can't do this to that extent. And your kind of worthiness kicks in, you get a little sad, and it's hard to feel like wanting to do those things for yourself that would make you feel better because you feel like I can't have failed this and I don't deserve this. And you become like resolved to do, I can't meet this societal expectation. So I'm not good enough and I'm just gonna shrink in the corner over here.
and how did that make you feel when you had thoughts like that?
It's too bad. It because I was in that bad frame of mind that I felt deserved of it, honestly. And so it took a long time to move past and to realize it's just been in the last few years that I've realized that, hey, you do deserve
Mhm.
more.
What do you think helped you move past that? That's a pretty disempowering and depressing place to be in. I just don't deserve health, feeling like a complete failure and unworthy of health in your body. What helped you to move past that?
Definitely therapy
Go ahead.
and seeing other examples. I think that representation is a
Mm,
big thing and seeing other people that look like me doing things, moving their body, understanding that there's more to it than just a look really helped a lot because then I could get to a place where I didn't put so many pressures on
mm,
the health part of it. But yeah, I think just also just growing up, even though I've been an adult through most of this, I just think there's like a point where it's still a work in progress for me, but you start to care less about what other people think. And then you find some freedom in, okay, I am good enough. And because I think I am. And I think I looked for a lot of external validation, which I wasn't getting because I wasn't the right thing by society standards.
And I think that's such an important point that is whenever we have these feelings of unworthiness, that's usually at the root of it is we're looking for someone else to validate our worth. And by no means are you alone in this. This is the plight of many, the most women, I would venture to guess. And as long as we're seeking validation from others and looking externally to prove our worth, we will always come up short.
Mm.
So, what do you think helped you to discover in yourself that you're worthy?
I think just a lot of it has been self work. We talk about self coaching. I'm not sure that's something everybody's familiar with as far as like terminology goes, but really just reworking and starting to believe those thoughts. And it's been hard to go from feeling like I'm not worthy. You can't just jump to, oh, I'm worthy. And
Yeah.
there it is, like problem solved.
Oh, I'm healed.
There's some steps in between. We only wish. So just trusting is what it's been. And you have to have faith in yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's just something I've cultivated over the last few years.
Mhm.
This faith that like I can show up for myself. I can trust that maybe I'm not there yet, but I can get there and just take those baby steps towards believing those things in myself and also just being okay with being human, which was like a hard thing in that perfectionist mindset, all of nothing mindset. Like it doesn't allow you to be human. And I think even the last year has really driven that home when everything was like caving in on us. Like, I can only do my best. That's all I can do. And that's enough. And that's it. You can't really say more than that. I can only do my best. And so I've just been reminding myself that like when anything comes up, this is what I can do. I can do my best at movement. I can do my best at eating. And that's going to be good enough. And also something you and I talked about previously too was health on my own terms, and
Yeah.
that's been, like, a huge light bulb moment for me. It's like, it doesn't have to be what you do that makes you feel good, it has to be what I do that makes me feel good,
Absolutely.
and I can't compare it to anybody else because no one else is me.
And I think that's where a lot of us get trapped is we have reduced health to one thing. And we assume that if you are in a certain size body that realistically only about 3% of the population can actually have. But that is the picture of health. So try to fit into that. And it's impossible. And then we can spend our whole life trying to chase it and end up feeling like a failure when really their health is so much more than a body size. And it's unique to each individual, right? We all live with different conditions and ailments and strengths, and all of it contributes to our overall well being. Yeah, defining what health means to you and deciding to go after that is, I remember having this conversation with you, and you were like, wait, what? Like, I get to decide?
Yeah, yeah, because you don't think. I was raised in, like, the age of the aerobics and no fat, and I was then, like I said, my, middle adult years were influenced by weight loss shows and things, and so you really don't think that it doesn't I don't there was nobody ever saying, "Hey, there's another way," until I found non-diet community.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, oh, I don't have to do it that way. And just the fact that there's this thought that like when you like think about it, I know somebody had said like you have to get angry first, right?
Yes.
But really, I've gone through that phase. I still get it sometimes, like when you see stuff, you're like, "Ugh," but I got angry and I saw all the things like that. If this diet was the perfect diet, why didn't it work for everybody? And now why is every newspaper and ad talking about this new diet? Like I thought this diet from the 90s was the diet. And all of a sudden you see the holes in
Yeah.
theories and you're like, wait a minute, maybe I was taking everything at face value and I wasn't critically thinking about it. And now it's like I've got that skepticism turned on whenever I see diet stuff. And it helps a lot
Uh-huh.
to know, hey, I don't have to believe that doesn't have to be true for me.
Yeah. Such an important point because really, when you think logically about it, like when you watch the evolution of dieting over the last 30, 40 years, like, you're right. If there were one right way to eat, don't you think we would have found it by now? Like, why does it keep changing? Like, of course, we should question the validity of any of this. And at the bottom of it, they're just trying to make money off of us. And yeah, the quote you're referring to, I think it's along the lines of the truth shall set you free, but first it will piss you off.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and I love that because yeah, it is maddening at first when your eyes get open to this stuff. You're like, God, I was like hoodwinked all these years. I bought a lie. But once you can channel that anger into empowerment and be like, no, no
Right.
more.
It does it has been a helpful. I've been someone who's been I get timid of anger. It's an
Yeah.
emotion that's hard for me to express back to the people pleasing side of me. You don't want to be angry, and good girls aren't angry. Nice girls aren't angry. And so that's been a hard one for me to tap into, but it really does. Like it in the right context, it really helps you like say, forget you.
Yeah.
I'm moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like need that anger to be like, no.
I need something different in my life. This is not working anymore.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing, what I if I can summarize is listening to this whole evolution that you've gone through, it seems to me that at the root of it, your thoughts about yourself have changed. Like your eating behavior, your movement behavior, that seemed to be the problem on the surface. You thought it was your body, you thought it was that you couldn't stick to anything and blah, blah, blah. But really, it was a whole thought system of it has to look a certain way, it has to be perfect. If I don't fit the norm, I'm not enough, I'm not good enough. And through a lot of self work, you have changed your thought system to I can do my best. I am good enough the way that I am. I can find movement that I enjoy. It's enough for me. I can define health on my terms, right? It's not so much that you started to do things differently in your life. You started to think differently. Am I right?
Definitely. Yeah. And I realize I think I've been building all these pieces and that mindset work was the glue that put it all together for me personally. Like I had all these things floating there and I was like, okay, this is good, this is helpful, but how do I get it back to me? And that was the big shift was like and I've talked about, like I said, I've been in therapy, like I've done talks about neuroplasticity and changing with you and I working together. This self coaching model was just like it was the way I needed it presented to me, which
Yeah.
I didn't know I needed until I found it, and then it was like, "Oh,
Yeah, it was the same for me. I like a process. So when I see the model, I'm like, okay, I can pinpoint now how my thoughts are making me feel and the action I'm taking and the results I'm getting. And I can work backwards. If I don't like how something's going, I can work backwards and change my thoughts. And yeah, like you say, we could try all of the things and we can get all of the help that's available to us. But sometimes we just need that one tool that's really going to make it all click.
yeah."
So how would you say that now having this tool and having the power to master your thoughts, how has that changed your relationship with movement and food and your body image as a result?
Like, the biggest thing for me, why I was looking for help was with the movement piece because, like I said, I had anxiety around it, and it has just been getting worse lately. We moved in the last few years and then pandemic, and for a while there, it was actually scary to go outside, and it
Mhm.
just kind of layered all these things, and then I just had this I was worried about having anxiety or a panic attack while I was out exercising, and learning that, hey, you don't have to go that far. You can do what's comfortable because what good is working out if it gives you a panic attack? Like when I could do a style of working out that doesn't. And I chose walking in a path that keeps me right by my house if I decide I need to stop. And I walk almost every day now. And that was something that I really wanted. And it's not what someone else might think is
Mhm.
enough, but for me, it's I was doing nothing and now I'm doing something and I feel like a lot of pride. I feel it just my body hasn't changed, but I feel better. I feel like I would get winded going up and down the stairs and I don't anymore. Like just these little changes and it just from going out and it changes every day. Some days I feel like going and I stay out for a while. Sometimes I go out and I do my like one little lap and I'm good. And before I wouldn't let myself stop. I would be like, no, you've got to go for 30 minutes or an hour. And that would make me anxious because I'm like, I don't feel good. I don't want to be here, but I can't leave. And now I've given myself the option to, and also into rest too.
Yes.
That's been something like I didn't appreciate that at all until recently that like it's okay if there's a day where you just need to do nothing, like that's okay and that's good for your body. And that's been a big I feel like my health has improved because of like being able to rest and let everything come back together. Food, I feel like I've been in a pretty good place with. Everybody has their days, but and then body image, I've just found having the right thoughts and then also just seeing more people that look like me. It's
Mhm.
such a powerful thing. Seeing them do regular things, seeing them have a happy life just like anybody else instead of this like picture that the media gives us of if you're not this, then you're lazy and unhappy and frumpy or whatever. Like just seeing all these vibrant women and bodies like mine living life and just you're like, oh, like all of a sudden when I see that, like my body looks just like any other body. Like if all I'm ever looking at is a woman that's a different body than me, then all I'm gonna think is that's the one way to be in a body.
Yes.
So it really was like mindset, yes. And also I think that just was a big thing for me is like realizing that there's not just one body out there in the world because that's all we see presented to us.
Yeah, early when we started working together, you talked about, like, cleaning up your social media, like, really curating it with accounts that represented the type of women you were wanted to surround yourself with, and that's made a huge difference. And you're right, we should all do that. Like, we have to fill our minds with diversity, whether that's body diversity, racial diversity, ability diversity, all of it. We have to get out of this all or nothing thinking that there is one way to look and be.
Yeah.
And I love how you talk about your relationship to movement now, how instead of all, which was like just far too unrealistic, to nothing, you have now created a game that you can win, right? That's a line I like to use, but you've decided what would feel good for you, what's the minimum amount that you can consistently stick to and feel proud of that makes you feel safe and moves you towards your health goals. And like you say, they're baby steps, but you've progressed and you feel good and you feel better in your body, which proves that it doesn't have to be all or nothing to achieve health. You are feeling healthier by taking the steps that feel good for you.
Yeah.
That's a like it doesn't
And
get much better than that, does it?
it to know. And I will say one little part back to that is like also creating something that as a mom of two kids who are both at school at home and I have a full-time job and my husband works full-time, I found something that I can do anytime regardless of because I've had things before, I've tried things, but then like spring break would come and I wouldn't be able to go to classes or wouldn't be able to meet the trainer or summer break or things would change. I picked something intentionally that I can do no matter what anybody else is doing because I'm not going far away. I'm not so if they need me, they can still see me and come get me. And
Yep.
I think that was a big thing too, is like that just helped so much more to say, okay, it doesn't have to be this big elaborate thing. And this small thing actually works in my life and is actually realistic for me.
Yeah,
Um,
it's attainable.
yeah.
That all or nothing, when we're stuck in all or nothing, there's so many barriers to achieving it because like you say, life happens.
Yeah.
There's so many and they're not I don't like to call them excuses because 'cause they're not, like, they're real things that go on in our life. We think they're excuses, but that's only because we've set the bar so high it's unachievable. They're barriers. So, yeah, you saw them for what they were and you're like, "What can I do? What can I realistically do that works for me and the life situation that I have?" And you're doing it.
Yeah.
Amazing. Hey, do you have any examples of how you have been able to advocate for yourself as a result of the new mindset that you've adopted?
I think it's probably been a little more quiet. I'll admit, like, it's a, for me personally, it's been a nice time to ease into something like this because, like, I'm not in the world a lot right now. So I can find my confidence within myself. I don't interact with a lot of people, but I have like anything that's coming at me, like friends posting diet stuff or things, like I've made the choice to unfollow and it's not anything I don't say, "Hey, you're wrong." It's just for me right now, it's better for my mind if I don't
Yeah. Don't.
get sucked back into that.
Yeah.
And I think the only other thing, I did have a doctor and I saw her kind of previously before I got into all this. And I had a lot of thoughts that changed and I needed to see her again early this year. So it had been a whole year. When I saw her last time, I was just learning about intuitive eating. A lot has happened. And you hear a lot of things about how, and I'm in a larger body. So especially that you hear a lot of things about how doctors' visits go and how there's so much emphasis on weight and not the whole picture. And so I did take time to, since they were offering like telehealth appointments, like it was like this, like a Zoom chat. And I got one of those before my physical. And we ended up talking for an hour. And I told her all the stuff I was doing and just said, "Hey, I can't come to you if you can't get on board with what I'm doing." And she was like, I was amazed. Like it went great. She was totally okay with it. She already believes that weight isn't an important metric, so it wasn't even a thing for her, and it was really powerful because I went to my doctor's appointment, like, the next month, and I was still a little bit nervous, but it went so good because I wasn't waiting for, like, that ball to drop of
Step on
when
the scale now and
yeah,
yeah,
or when is this conversation gonna shift from, "Everything looks good, but"
let's talk about your weight.
yeah. Yeah, I guess that's probably the biggest thing, and that's for me, that was a pretty big one.
That's amazing. Yeah, I don't know if you grasp just how big that is to be able to stand up and have that conversation before your doctor's appointment and just set those boundaries and what you're willing to tolerate when you go in. I think that's amazing.
I think you have to remind yourself that I'm so like this, like people like a doctor, you give them a lot of authority, but like, at the end of the day, you're a customer and you're paying them a lot of money. You should get what you need out of it. It shouldn't be like that they're this like over like this god, quote unquote, of what is healthy. And
Yeah. Like
like,
really, it's a partnership, right? Like you should be
yeah,
working together to work towards your health goals.
yeah. And to know that you can go into the doctor and have some kind of ailment, like a knee ailment, have them do all the things that they would do for any person in any body size instead of just saying, "Hey, you've got to lose weight." And that's it.
100%. Yeah, that's a really good point. This has been a really great conversation. So one more question for you, Zara. What would you say has been your biggest win in the most recent months?
I would say it's honestly, for me, it's been the movement to have that back in my life. I really felt stuck. I would literally sit in the house and look out the window and be like, "Oh, it seems like a nice day to walk." But my thoughts and my anxieties would just keep me
Mm,
even stepping out. And so to have that freedom again to like, not only to feel able, but to enjoy it and look forward to it and want to prioritize it has been really great. And yes, the mindset too, obviously, because that's what got me there. Just feeling that worthiness coming about. And also just being able to like life gives you like a little thing that kind of trips you up and you can work through it and be like, is that true for me? Is that serving me? And then you can move past it. Like I had like a bad body image weekend the other weekend and I was honestly resistant to journaling. And then finally on Sunday, I was like, okay, let's just do this. And it was just this big weight lifted after I wrote and did the self-coaching model, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I don't need to live here."
yeah, we don't have to stay stuck in our negative feelings. Like you have this tool now that's empowered you to that you can use and pull out for any situation and change your state.
Yeah,
If you choose to look at your thoughts, you can change how you feel in that moment. So that's huge. I'm really so happy. It's just so thrilled that you have been able to find joyful movement for yourself.
me
I
too.
don't know, like, it's gonna sound trite, but this is exactly why I do what I do, and nothing gives me greater joy than to see you finding joy in movement, so I am thrilled and so happy for you, and you have done such amazing work on yourself. You should be really proud.
Thank you. Yeah, I you're what you do is so helpful, and the minute that I reached out to you before we even started working together and told you about my anxieties, just the fact that you were, like, open. I've never met, like, a personal trainer that even gets it. And I just have always felt so misunderstood. So, like, right away, I was like, oh, this is different. And we haven't even, in our work together so far, we haven't talked about like exercise or movement in a very specific way, but it's really been the outcome, which has been, that one's been interesting to me is like, it's motivated me or moved me to move
Yeah.
mm, just by,
The funny thing is I don't need to tell you what to do. Like, and same with eating. None of us really need to be told what to do. We just need to discover what's behind our blocks, and then you can figure it out on your own
yeah,
once you've done.
it's been amazing.
You are an inspiration. I am 100% confident that this conversation will help so many of the women that are listening. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart for being willing to share your story with our people. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Friends, what do you think? Isn't it amazing how a simple change in thinking can just change everything and open up so much freedom and possibility? I get so excited and inspired when I see these shifts in my clients. It just lights me up. So that's it for today. I hope that you found Zara's story inspiring. I would love to hear your thoughts. So just shoot me a DM over on Instagram or Facebook and let me know your takeaways, or feel free to share this episode if you found it helpful. Thank you so much for being here, and here's to your radiant vitality.
Mm.
Thanks for tuning into the Power in Motion podcast today. If you love what you're learning here, then I invite you to take the next step of embodying these concepts into your own life so that you can live your healthiest, happiest life and never again feel held back by your body. Coaching is the fastest, most efficient pathway to taking what you know in your head to actually applying it and seeing results. Whether you're looking to make changes around movement, food, body image, or all three, I'm here to help you nurture a kind, respectful, and trusting relationship with your body so you can feel your very best. Click the link in the show notes to book a free consultation, and together we'll uncover what's getting in the way of you having the results you want. You'll leave this call knowing exactly what you need to work on, and together we'll explore whether one of my coaching offers is a good fit for you. I can't wait to meet you.